for this podcast comes from my husband, who loves me despite every harebrained idea I have, and also by the letter S and the number 2. Coming to you direct from Harris Photo Studio turned podcast studio, this is See Beneath Your Beautiful, where your story matters. Thank you for being my first guest.
Yeah, thanks. It's fun.
You're my test head dummy.
Yes, I love being your test head dummy.
Tell me just a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name is Teri McCoy, and I'm a hairstylist and just a really great, fun overall person.
That is very true.
Thank you.
You know, I was being interviewed and the lady said, you care about not how somebody looks, but how somebody makes you feel. And you're the only person that popped in my head. And not that you're not beautiful, but just that you make me feel very, very loved. You're very good at being a cheerleader and just saying sweet things. And I know that you do that for everybody. I know that you're well loved across the board. So I'm glad I'm one of your friends.
Oh, thank you for saying that. One of the things I love about you is you're really good also at seeing people, because I think that's one of my gifts, my superpowers, is seeing people and reflecting that back to them. You're also incredibly good at that. And that's one of the ways that you and I really connect deeply.
Thanks for saying that. Yes, I think that's true about me. And I don't know when that happened, but I'm glad it did. I don't think I used to be that way.
You grew into who you are, and it's been amazing to watch.
Thanks. What I want to do with this, I want to have a conversation with you like we always have. I don't know if you have something specific you'd like to talk about, but what I thought of when we were discussing you being a guest was your history of dating and relationships and finally finding yourself.
That's amazing that you said that.
Why is it amazing?
I seem like I'm very open, but I'm actually deeply private. And you're one of the people that I let into my deeply private inner world. And so yesterday on Facebook, I shared something that was so incredibly private. A couple of years ago, I had a tremendous, terrible heartbreak. Like it cut me to the core. And I was just like, oh, I'm so sad and I'm so wounded. And I can't believe this is happening to me again. And I found some letter somewhere on the internet that somebody wrote, and the words encompassed everything that I was feeling and thinking in a way that a lot of people will hear a song and they don't realize that, oh, that covers everything I'm feeling and thinking. All we know is we like that song. And maybe it's Carrie Underwood talking about where she keys somebody's car because she's so angry about what happened in a relationship. So I saved this letter. I copied and pasted this letter and I saved it on my iPhone in my notes so that I could come back to it later. And the other day, it popped up as I was just scrolling through my phone. Yesterday morning, I was reading it and I was like, holy shit, this letter, it was Pete the pilot was, somebody I was madly in love with and probably attracted because I needed to beat myself up to learn a lesson. So it was amazing that it was almost 1 year ago to the day that I had my last huge breakup with this person that I brought into my life in order to learn something. And I was so excited because I'm 1 year to the day. I didn't even mean for this letter to pop up. But it was all about, thank you so much for breaking my heart so that I could learn how to be strong enough on my own and figure out all of these things that I deserve that are better for me. And as I'm reading it, I no longer had the pain. What I realized is that letter was to myself and that I deserved better. I deserved to treat myself better. I love it that you're asking me about this timing of everything coming together. It's fun.
Well, it doesn't seem like very long ago that you were still entrenched in Pete the pilot. And so what do you think switched? Did it just one day you woke up and realized that you cared less? Or is there something you did? I know you're constantly working on yourself, which is one of the things I really appreciate. You're always trying new things. Was there anything specific that you did or all the bunch of things that you did?
It was all of the things that I did. And it was the deep interpersonal work that I've been trying to do in order to mature and learn to love myself and find value and worth and stop looking at these different aspects of myself that I hate. And what I learned to do is embrace the icky parts of myself and just love them and give love to myself instead of projecting it out onto somebody else.
What are some of the things you did?
You and your work has been incredibly integral in that journey for me.
In what way?
In the way that you're not afraid to talk about it. You're not afraid to look at it. The name of your podcast, the song, like Beneath You're Beautiful, being able to see beauty in everything and all of that. You talking about those things allows me to have conversation and allows me to look at myself in less scary ways.
I've been telling you for a long time how perfect you are, exactly the way you are. And I think you finally... But I think you finally do.
I do. I finally do. It's pretty amazing. And I don't know how you get there. I remember that 10 years ago, you were going through Linda Dillon. I can't remember her name.
Linda Davis.
Linda Davis had this program that you got involved with. And remember she wanted to put you in color and not in black and do all of these things. And you were really trying hard. I mean, in the end, you came back to you.
I do not like myself in yellow. I don't care what she says. I don't care if she's an expert.
I could see myself reflected in you. You were a wonderful mirror for me. Our relationship just allowed me to do the same things, like try on something new and say, I like it or I don't like it. Or that was too far out there for me. So I'm going to come back a little bit and I'm going to try something new. Did that answer the question?
I don't remember what the question was. So I'll say yes.
Yes, which is one of the things. Say yes.
Say yes. I do like to say yes.
I know. I love that about you.
Because, life is short. Well, I know you have done some fun things. You've done so much. One of the things that stands out in my head is hugging a tree.
Oh, yes.
So, you've tried everything, I would say, including hugging a tree.
Self-love. One of the things that I know about myself is I love physical touch. I love affection. I love hugs. I love touch. I love skin. I love things so much and so deeply that sometimes I can't get enough of it, that I just want it. I want to immerse myself in it. So for example, like I love the color lime green or like a yellow green. And when I was younger, instead of just having like one lime green pillow, I painted a whole entire living room in it. And it was a nauseating color, but I wanted to immerse myself so deeply in that experience. And, sometimes like when I had babies, when my children were babies, I loved them so much that I just wanted to like eat their baby fat rolls, put them in your mouth. Like it sounds really odd, but it's like you want to nibble on their toes because you love them so much. I couldn't get enough of it. Sex is like that. You love somebody so much that the closest that you can get to the physical act of sex, like immersing myself into like these relationships and just wanting to be all in it. Okay, well, what I learned is that that's not healthy. My immersion in things was overindulgence and it wasn't incredibly healthy. So I get in these relationships just because it would meet a need. So for example, I had one boyfriend who the reason I liked him so much was that he pet me like a cat. He just met my need for physical touch. And that was wonderful. But the rest of the relationship wasn't healthy. And there was another boyfriend that I had who allowed me to be incredibly hedonistic. I could drink a lot of alcohol. I could smoke pot. He was 20 years younger than I was. So I could be that 20-something-year-old, even though I was in my 40s. I could just be immersed in that experience, but that wasn't healthy either. So one of the things I had to learn to do was provide the touch for myself. And I have a life coach named Elizabeth Cocoanne Galeazos. She is amazing. And she, for 2 or 3 years, she really had to push me so hard to learn how to provide that for myself. So one of the ways that I got physical touch, especially during all of the lockdown through COVID, when I couldn't be out there dating and having sex and having a relationship and doing all of that, hugging my friends, was that she taught me how to hug trees. I heard about it years and years ago, but it's a weird thing, right? Because like, who goes out and hugs a tree? But Coco does. And she showed me how to do it in the most glorious, amazing way. So during the lockdown of the pandemic, we'd go on social distancing dates where we would be masked up. We'd go outside. We'd get in a little bit of an altered state. So whatever that means. For me, I'm 420 friendly. And so that's what I did. She and I, we'd smoke our joint. We'd go out to this beautiful bluff overlooking nature. And we would just trip out on trees and leaves and grass and flowers and the birds chirping. And then she said, now I want you to go up and I want you to put your arms around this tree. And I did. And I was like, whoa, this tree feels like my dad's hug. It was so weird, but it was wonderful and amazing at the same time because it allowed me, being in this little altered state of consciousness, allowed me to be a little girl and feel my father hugging me, even though my dad's on the opposite side of the state. And most of my life, we've had a kind of an estranged relationship. But in that moment, I was able to connect with my father, hugging me and telling me, patting me on the back and being like, it's okay, little Teresa, I love you. It was a really surreal experience, but it was amazing.
Two things I'm thinking is one, I love that you see beauty. Two, I do not do a lot of marijuana at all. Like I do not like it.
I know.
But I did do a gummy last weekend and I understand what you're saying because Philip touched my head and I could feel every follicle. And I drank a cup of tea and I could feel it going down, the warmth of it. So I totally understand where in your altered state, the trees, they felt amazing. So I'm so glad I can relate to you.
And however you need to get it, sometimes it's doing yoga, or exercising and you get the endorphins of the runner's high, or you get excited about, like a new project.
I get that feeling when I play tennis, whether I play well or not that day. I'm so happy on the tennis court and behind a camera. We are very similar in those things. I cannot not point out the sky. On a rainbow, I feel like we only get so many in a lifetime. You have got to stop and appreciate a rainbow. I stopped and appreciated a rainbow during a real tennis match, and the ladies looked at me like I was nuts. I stopped in the middle of a point to point out the rainbow. Another time I was playing with the same lady. We were playing in a park and the beautiful, it wasn't a leaf, but it was leaf-like, fell down gently to the ground. And when nobody was looking in between a point, I hurried up and put it in my pocket because it was just glorious. And it didn't work in my pocket, which I also thought was glorious that I couldn't capture it, that it was too beautiful to capture and take home, just gently gliding to the ground.
That is another way you and I connect. The beauty, like you said, you can see beauty in everything. You just want to slow it down and feel all of it.
So I feel like for you that you have found yourself, you have been looking for so long. You've asked the medium a bunch of times, the same question over and over and over. So has anything recently happened?
What happened recently is that I have a new boyfriend and he did a lot of landmark education. So he's got a lot of great words and structure. He told me this term called running a racket. So Coco, my coach, she told me this thing before. It's your bullshit. Are you more committed to your bullshit or are you more committed to you? And my new partner, Colt, uses racket. You're running a racket to keep yourself in the pain or in the cycle of keeping a bunch of shit around you, a bunch of your old story. So how you use the word, you're telling yourself a story. When I was able to remove all of the extraneous stuff and really take a deep, hard look at myself and take accountability for my own bullshit, it's so hard to do. It takes a lot of practice and a lot of work and a lot of falling down. I've just had to sit with myself and stop looking outside of myself, stop looking for relationships and stop looking at like how I want work to look like and what I want money to look like and what I want love to look like even the love of my children, and really stop telling myself the stupid story over and over and over again and really get real with myself. So what's the new thing that happened? The new thing that happened was I buried an old version of myself in order to say yes to a new version of myself.
I think that's exactly the answer to freedom and loving yourself, is to take responsibility. I had somebody who owed me $10,000. And every morning I woke up, it was the first thing I thought of. And I was so angry every single day. And how dare that happen? And I went to a counselor and she said, did they put a gun to your head? And I was like, what? Because I was living in the story that I was a victim. And as soon as I had to take responsibility that I gave the money willingly, everything changed. And from that moment on, I've learned to take responsibility for everything. Even though you feel like the victim sometimes of somebody doing something, you still have a choice on how you react, on what you think about it. And that is the answer to freedom. It's all internal work. It's all your head. It's every story you tell yourself.
I used to tell myself so many stories. I mean, you've listened to me say, Pete the pilot, he was so mean to me and he just did this and he did that. And this guy did this and this client did that. And my parents did this and my kids did this. And it was all my choices. I was the one who kept myself stuck in a relationship with narcissistic abuse.
It's not to say that they didn't do those things. It's not to take away their responsibility. He might have been, he was 100% an asshole, but you've let yourself stay there for so long.
I did. I chose to stay there for so long.
I can say this to you because I have done it 1,000 times. I'm not above it. I'm just happen to be in a happy marriage. So I'm all safe now, safe from those mistakes.
Today, this is what I've come to realize is I get to choose. I get to choose the kind of relationship I want to be in. I choose how I show up. I choose to not be a victim. I choose to keep what makes me happy in my life. And today, I have a really fun partnership with someone, and it's new, but exciting. And it feels like I've known this person for years. He tells me things like, you just be you. And I'll say something like, oh, I hate that. I have a dark spot on my face that I can't get rid of. And every time I look at it, I don't feel pretty. And he's like, well, what if you just embrace it? Because there's nothing you can do to change it. So I sat with it for a minute. And you know what? Every time he looked at me, it didn't matter how I looked. He thought I was just freaking beautiful. And I was like, yeah, because I am freaking beautiful.
Right, right. I don't know why we need somebody else to agree with us on that. I mean, it helps that my husband looks at me lovingly. But even if you had 15 dark spots on your face, it doesn't take away your beauty. Because for me, your beauty is your soul and you shine so bright.
Yes.
You are so lovely. And I don't care if you were maimed in an accident, if you had no hair, if you were, lopsided 100%. You are the most lovely person I know and could care less what you look like. And I hope we all get there. Because you do my hair, I'm letting my grays grow out. I'm so down with it, not altering what God made, that I'm perfect. Why do I keep covering it? Why? I mean, all of you other ladies should go keep coloring your hair with Teri because she needs the business. But for me at this moment, I'm getting good with what God gave me.
Beauty is in your spirit, and your spirit shines through. And our body truly is. It's just a vessel. It's a container for who we are inside. Sometimes it gets a brand new paint job outside and it looks sparkly and amazing, but it's really what's inside that counts. And that's the part that we love. So it doesn't matter if you are letting your hair go gray and you stop getting eyelash extensions and all of the services that I could do for you. That doesn't define the love that you and I have between each other.
Definitely. We are a perfect example of that because I love you so much and I'm blashless and I think I look beautiful. So there, feel like I just love me the way God made me, and I'm going to see what it turns out to look like when it's all done.
So I want to circle back to something you brought up earlier, which was the medium. I had a session with her not too long ago, and she said something to me. I didn't even have a question. Usually I ask about relationship because that was always my hot pursuit, was love, relationship. Who's going to be my boyfriend? Who's going to be my husband? Am I going to find love? And I didn't even ask her any questions this time. I just went in and I said, just talk to me. And she said, all right, let me see what comes up. And she said, this is what I see for you is that you are sitting in a library. Like there's a library of books all around you. And you are reaching up into these different books and just learning things and reading things. And the purpose of this is that this year, you are going to let go of materialistic things in the world. And you have a jump start on like meeting your soul's true purpose. And she said, a lot of times, because I speak to dead people or souls, I don't know how she phrased it, but she said, souls that I've known when they were alive and souls that I've met after they've passed. And they're still always trying to find that connection, figure out the secret sauce. And she said, you're already well on your way and you're ahead of the curve. And she said, that's what's going to happen to you this year. So then, of course, I go home and I'm overthinking and I'm like, what is she talking about? And I go, are you talking about a literal library or a figurative library? And I'm like having this conversation. All the possibilities are going on in my head. And a few days later, I sat up and I noticed that my bookshelf of my favorite books that I've been collecting for years are all on a little like shelf right behind my headboard. They are on my headboard, and they're all of this self-development work, different like religion, psychology, self-development, personality tests, all these cool things that I really am into. And I was like, oh, there's my library. This is the library. These are the books that I keep coming back to and the topics I keep coming back to from my whole entire life. And I'm reaching back and looking at old stories or old pieces of information. And I'm opening up the book and I'm reflecting on how do I see this today, which is not unlike me finding that letter. I thought that was pretty cool.
That's how I feel when I read. How do you say Desiderata? Is that the name of that? Desiderata.
I don't know.
Well, I've read it since I was 20 and it means something totally different. Right. I don't know if I've ever said it out loud. Desiderata. I don't know. Shoot. Yes, I'll find it and somehow post it in the notes. But, when I read it at 20 and when I read it now, it means something totally different. I like that. And that's the same with seeing Man of La Mancha. I saw it in high school and was so moved. And I have Dulcinea tattooed on me and Impossible Dream. I mean, that play has meant so much to me because I related to Dulcinea. She's a character who finds her self-worth at the end of the musical. And she's Aldonza, but Don Quixote calls her Dulcinea. She says at the end, I am Dulcinea. She's resonated with me throughout my womanhood, being 20 and feeling a little bit more like Aldonza than Dulcinea, feeling more like, not knowing myself. And it's interesting how it has meant something in my early 20s and is just so rich and beautiful in my 50s. And I still, every time I see it, I find something different to hold on to and love. So if anybody has a chance, watch Man of La Mancha. I love that musical.
You've got a beautiful little bronze statue.
Somebody sent me a long time ago a little perfume bottle that says Dulcinea on it. I have cigar boxes that say Dulcinea on it. I like being Dulcinea. I like knowing who I am and loving myself despite my past. That's all I think it means.
Not even despite your past, including your past.
Yes, thank you. Because it's not despite it. It all brought me to this spot.
The loving yourself and the forgiving yourself and loving all the parts that you thought were ugly when you were little or 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 and just owning it all.
One time I was probably mid-30s and I remember sitting in my car crying. My kids were in the house and I was crying and I was talking to my sister on the phone and I was saying how ashamed I was and that God could never forgive me. And my sister said, he has nothing to forgive you for. And in that very moment, God felt real because I felt loved 100% completely in that moment. And like I had nothing to apologize for. So not religious at all, but I felt God's love or my sister's love, whatever it was. And I just, all of a sudden, I realized there was no past I ever had anything to be apologizing for because God loved me or my dad loved me or I was lovable. Whatever it was, I was finally lovable in whatever state I was in.
That's beautiful. And which sister?
Deanna. She's always been a good cheerleader.
You like cheerleaders.
I do like cheerleaders. I love people to tell me how great I am. What's wrong with that?
Words of affirmation is one of your love languages.
Yeah, all 5 are my love languages, but yes, that's one of them.
Me too. Yeah. I know. It's like, which one's the favorite? I don't know. All five.
I was like, give me gifts. Tell me I'm wonderful. Touch me. I love them all. I don't know how you can possibly pick.
Spend time. And your husband is wonderful. Do acts of service for you. He's
so amazing. Yesterday, I had a client who I needed to go pick something up from the printer. And I just was so tired yesterday. And he went and picked it up and he delivered it. I'm so lucky. I'm so fortunate because I did not feel like going. And I really appreciated that he did or didn't mind. Anyway, I don't know if he wanted to, but he certainly just did it.
You're a lovely pairing. You guys are a great pairing. So I have another back to the medium. In another session with her, she had said, I keep hearing this book called Conversations with God. And I said, oh, so interesting because I just grabbed that book. I have that on my bookshelf, but I never have read it. And a year later, I still hadn't read it. So maybe about 5 months ago, I downloaded it on Audible. And I'm still listening to that book over and over and over and over again. And I don't know if you're familiar with it, but what I get the most out of it is that God is within you. And this whole idea resonated with me, that God is within me. Took me about like a year before I actually came back to that seed that she planted, and how important this book has been in my self-development and my growth over the last year and learning how to love myself.
Oh, good to know. Well, I was going to ask actually from your bookshelf, if you had to gift a book to somebody or to your daughter, which book would you give to your daughter to read?
Oh, I did gift a book to my new boyfriend. It's Kyle Cease. I bought his book and I couldn't read it. But because I got to page 19, I believe. And at page 19, I was like, he is calling out the bullshit right there. And that's where I'm stuck in my bullshit. So I stopped reading it and I dog-eared the page. And I just went on a vacation with my new boyfriend. And I brought this book with me to give him to read. And so we started reading it together out loud, which is really fun. Okay. So there's that one.
What's the name of it?
I hope I screw this up.
Teri O'Connor always says what she likes about Kyle Cease is he says, whatever you do that you're mad at yourself about. And he says, and I love that. Like I ate the box of cookies and I love that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then a book that I might pass to my daughter is one of my favorite books when I was a kid is Gone with the Wind.
I love that book. I should reread Gone with the Wind. Sorry, I got excited because nobody else says Gone with the Wind. She was a real endearing character and you rooted for her the whole time.
Even through her bitchiness.
She was just misunderstood, but you were in her head. You understood her. That book was so good. Oh, now I'm going to get it.
I love that. And you'll probably have it like an hour after we hang up today.
Thank you, Audible.
Thank you, Audible.
Oh, I am not a patient person, obviously, because it was 8 days ago that I said, I wonder what it would be like if I did a podcast.
Right. And now you're all set up, like you've got all the things.
Yeah, I'm already live on the podcast sites and I don't have an episode to put up there yet until this one. And it seems like I just jump in, but I have done all the research. I just do a lot of research very quickly. I say I'm a binge learner.
You just go all in.
I go all in.
You are all in with what you are passionate about. We're either all in or all out.
100%. I always say, don't piss me off because then, I love everybody, but also not. Because those I really don't. Although actually, I can't even think of anybody I'm angry at or upset with because you do get to a point where it's not even worth any bit of energy. I assume everybody loves me, not just likes me or puts up with me, but loves me. And even the people I know that don't, I think they secretly do. And they would have to say it to my face and I still might not believe them if they said they didn't like me. That's a good way to go about life.
It is a good way. It feels good.
I must be loved. What's not to love?
What's not to love? You're amazing.
What a waste of energy thinking, oh, this person doesn't like me for something.
You create your own fuel by doing that. It fuels you to chase your dreams. When you and I say something like, oh my God, you're so beautiful. And someone says, oh no, I look too fat or, oh, my hair is not good. You and I don't see the fault. We see the beautiful.
I feel that way also. I mean, I really do see people's beauty and it's very sad that they can't, but I get it too. I've been there. One of my favorite things that happened recently was I did this series called Unveil, and I photographed women in my studio wearing nothing but tulle. Fabric, yeah. The point is, though, when they would review the photos afterwards and they'd look at the monitor and they'd say, oh my God, it's so beautiful. And I would just say, because you're beautiful. All I did was point the camera. I didn't even edit the photo yet. So I loved that they could see their beauty through my lens where they can't see it when they look in a mirror. It made me so happy that I could show them their beauty.
And that's a gift of yours. I've been on the opposite many times.
You were my test head dummy for that too.
I love it. And I felt like a supermodel. And I didn't even feel like a supermodel. I looked like a supermodel. Like when I was a little girl, there was no one on the cover of a magazine that looked like me. When I was growing up, when I was a little girl, the standard of beauty was Farrah Fawcett, Christy Brinkley, beautiful, blonde, long-haired, white, Caucasian women. That was what was beautiful. That was what was on the cover of magazines and movies. And I am Filipino. So I have brown skin, a flat pug nose is what we used to call it, a little flat, wide nose. My lips are full. And my eyes are brown. They weren't the blue. So I didn't think I was beautiful. I never saw role models on TV, characters in TV shows or cartoons, and nobody looked like me. I moved to Spokane, Washington in the late 80s and through the 90s. And there's not a lot of diversity here. I didn't see a lot of darker skinned people. So a lot of times I would walk into a restaurant or I'd walk into a grocery store and I was the only person that had color to their skin. I thought I wasn't beautiful. The point of my part of the story was that seeing myself through your camera lens, I looked like the girl on the magazine, the beautiful woman on the magazine that I never thought I could be. And there I was. And I was like, damn, I'm kind of cool.
What I love about photography most, coming from 30 years as a graphic designer, which is very solo, is that it's a collaboration every photo shoot. You really bring a sense of joie de vivre, of lightness. What I hope is happening is that I'm making people feel comfortable enough to relax and be like that in front of the camera. And that's what I hope to do with this podcast as well, is make it a relaxed conversation and be able to really talk about things from the heart. Well, I really appreciate you talking to me from your heart and telling me all the things and being my first guest.
Thanks for having me. And anytime you want to ask me something, I give myself freely to you.
Oh, thank you. Well, you did say when we started that you're private, and I'm glad that people are saying yes. So thanks for being my first one.
You're welcome. But you should also know that that's a gift of yours, is being able to draw people out, and the approach that you have in taking time to get to know someone and finding all of those beautiful parts, making it safe for them, keeping their secrets until they're ready to share and reveal. I see in you, your growth is that you honor people. You honor that, whether you think they were right or wrong or overreacting or not, you come back and you honor what is sacred about them. And that allows me to be more vulnerable with you, because I believe that you won't exploit me, Tara. You never exploit anyone. And that allows me to be vulnerable with you.
Oh, you got me choked up. Thank you. I met with a girlfriend the other day, and I was telling her about this podcast, and she was reminding me that when I did Yes, Yes Magic and I interviewed the 25 women, that I was overwhelmed with everybody's stories. And I said, well, this is different because I was keeping everybody's secret. Everybody can know what I know. This is why it's different. They're willing to share. And it was a burden, everybody telling me these things. And I felt it was so important to not share anything anybody said. I'm so touched. Thanks for being my first guest, because your story matters to me. And subscribe wherever pods are cast. Thanks for listening.